Welcome back to the Performance Prescription Lab, where we connect athletes and healthcare professionals to the science of performance. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Nilhan. Today, we are excited to dive into a quick recap of the first Clinical Sports Pharmacy Summit hosted by the Sports RX Network a few weeks ago on April 11th and 12th in sunny Fort Lauderdale. Also, it was my first trip to the US and it was an amazing experience.
It was super fun to have you and finally get to meet in person for the first time. So I really was excited about that. But I would want to say that this event was more than just a conference. It felt kind of like a launch pad where pharmacists from across community, clinical, and sports settings. We also had athletic trainers, dietitians, sports medicine providers, and researchers. And I think the summit brought us all together with one big question of like, what is sports pharmacy and what is the future of sports pharmacy?
Yeah, we discussed the definition of sports pharmacy evolving in real time, thanks to the powerful keynotes, insightful sessions, and some very real discussions about how we support athletes from youth to elite, about medication safety, hormone health, recovery tools, and anti doping strategies.
Yeah, I think there was just so much energy around the idea of collaboration and having multiple different types of providers all in one setting. And kind of showing that we're not just supporting athletes with prescriptions, but we're all advocating, educating, and protecting them. There was discussions around menstrual health, around pain management, concussion treatments, cardiovascular health, asthma, and even mental health. And I think they were all very impactful.
I completely agree. And for our listeners, if you missed the summit, don't worry. Sports RX Network got you covered. You can become a member and then you will have access to the lectures, some of the lectures from the summit. You can simply go to www.sportsrxnetwork.com and some of the lectures will be, the presentations of some of the lectures will be there.
Yeah. So today we're going to reflect on our experience and some of our favorite lectures over these 2 jam-packed days. I think in total there was like 12 1-hour lectures and then a panel discussion. So there was lots crammed into these 2-day event.
I completely agree. I think there could be a diploma delivered to the participants. It was that educative. And like you mentioned, the overall highlight for me was that there were pharmacists, physicians, physical therapists, athletic trainers, nutritionists, researchers, and of course, the next generation, our students. I really felt empowered to be surrounded by my tribe in person. And it was 2 days of simulation of being in an athlete team from my perspective, just like I always dream of. Any thoughts on that, Jess? How do you feel about being in a
Yeah,
multidisciplinary environment?
I thought it was super cool. I thought it was neat to have, different providers be able to listen all to the same lecture and then have discussions about it afterwards. And so you're getting people with different backgrounds having discussions from their perspective and how they took in the same exact information and apply it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the other part was the students and just how many students attended and the energy the students brought.
Yeah, I completely agree. And because we were in a university, there were students from where we have the summit. So it was like very vibrant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As a sports pharmacist, as a pharmacist, I think this is what Brandon mentioned at the summit. You or can't remember exactly, but it was a really important statement. Before becoming a good sports pharmacist, you have to be a really good pharmacist. Pharmacists are the healthcare professionals responsible from the production to the dispensing of the medicines, supplements, medical products. We really know the safest, quality, and effective products in the market. As a sports pharmacist coming from a country where there is no third party testing system to confirm whether supplements are free from doping, I was in a awe how many doping free supporters were at the summit, so that we were able to explore some of the products that were third parties tested and certified. In a world where athletes often get sanctioned due to inadvertent doping because of the supplements, I really kind of felt proud that sports pharmacists can be relied on when it comes to selection of these supplements, other herbal products. So that was one of the highlights for me. before I jump into the lectures. And of course, as you mentioned, the lectures were top quality. I think any participant would get a diploma from that summit, just joke aside.
Yes.
And I really improved my knowledge, my skills, and I also grew my network. Now I have a really nice network of experts that I'll be following. And knowledge grows by sharing. So I just want to go with my favorite lecture number one. There is no particular order. It's just the lecture I would like to mention here. And not to do favoritism, but I just want to give credit to my co-host Jessica for her passion and commitment to safeguarding female athlete health. You're a competitive weightlifter yourself, and you're really passionate and knowledgeable. So that your presentation was one of my favorite lecture
Oh,
about
thank you.
yeah. Sorry, no pressure. Your presentation about empowering the female athletes over the entire lifespan was very, very inspiring to me. And the most surprising part that was how actually you started your presentation to hear that 60%, about 60% of girls drop out of sports by the end of puberty. Since we are lucky to have the speaker here with us, Jessica, I just wanted to ask your opinion. How can we keep girls in sports?
I think that's a big answer. There's multiple causes for why this is happening. There's obviously social pressures. There's girls with menstrual health, basically literacy. There's education. There's, now social media pressures. There's their body changing through puberty. So I think it is a multifaceted way to keep girls in sport. It's going to have to come from a change in our society in general. Having coaches better educated, being more open to letting girls wear different uniforms or feeling more confident in their body, some education, but I think it's going to come from multiple different ways. So I think it's, just a lot of people don't realize the importance of sport in developing confidence for these girls. There's so many women that were in C-suites. I think that the statistics, 96% of women in C-suite positions played sports. So we know that sport creates powerful women. And so making sure that we keep our girls in sport and continuing to learn why they're dropping out and figuring out ways to support them, I think is going to be really, really empowering to keep our girls in sports, because there's just so many positives. Like I said, confidence, but also health wise, being able to move and feel confident in your body throughout life is going to be really powerful.
Thank you very much for mentioning this and your perspective. And your presentation was showing us as pharmacists or sports health professionals how we can better support female athletes throughout their journey over their lifespan, so that we could somehow avoid these dropouts as a sports pharmacist. And just wanted to mention a couple of things that I took as take-home messages from your presentation. As a sports pharmacist, our main role is the key role as the medicine experts is to support athletes with pharmaceutical care. And oral contraceptive, pharmaceutical care of oral contraceptives is where we can significantly help and improve a female athlete's health and performance, understanding what types of birth control is the best. For example, you mentioned high androgen index progestins are more likely to cause weight gain, acne, and hair loss. I would say no female athlete would like to face these challenges. And there comes the nutrient depletions because of ongoing use of oral contraceptives. So they need to be followed and corrected either through supplements or nutrition. And I can confidently say that following Jessica's presentation as a sports pharmacist that supports a female football team in Cyprus, I simply advance my practice. So I really work with athletes, female athletes that are in the younger age range. So if I could support them with educating how to use better oral contraceptives, I think I could really help them for their future career or ongoing career. And your presentation showed us the lifespan perspective. And for example, we learned about postpartum female athletes, could struggle with sleep deprivation, mood changes, pelvic floor dysfunction, all of which can be improved by the correct exercise planning. We could really have a role and contribution having this conversation and guiding the athlete to the right exercise planning. And you can also mention a breastfeeding female athlete can burn 500 kilocalories per day, where you need to factor in increased caloric intake, increased hydration, plus addressing increased micronutrient needs such as calcium or vitamin D, all considering the exercise intensity of the female athlete. So these were really advanced, in-depth perspectives, thanks to Jessica. And my key takeaway was that you mentioned this a couple of times, and I really use this in my daily practice. Female athletes are not little men. Female athletes have distinct needs, and building a team around them, collaborating across different disciplines, working with the trainer, working with the physician, and supporting them as a sports pharmacist will be the key to championing female athletes in sport. Maybe through that, we can also keep girls in sport.
Hoping to give just a good dabble of all the different things to consider when working with female athletes, as I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions and also just a lot of unknowns. It was neat to hear some of the men that were in attendance come up and say thank you for highlighting that. I didn't know what like my wife or my daughters were going through, so I thought that was pretty cool to hear from some of the participants. So yeah, it was fun to give that presentation, so thank you for highlighting that. I would say for my favorite was either one of two. It's either going to be the panel discussion, which was fun to be a part of along with Athena, Brandon, and Robert. But I really think my favorite was Dr. Eli Friedman, who's a sports cardiologist at Baptist Health, and I think he did an amazing job of explaining sports cardiology to us, the nuances he sees as a sports cardiologist, and really championing how pharmacists could play a role in sports cardiology, from understanding medications and nuances of medications, helping with like EKG screenings, helping make sure our athletes that are on cardiac medications are getting the proper ones or the proper dose. I mean, he went into, which I think a lot of people found really interesting, the choice between why you would use one statin over another statin based on the risk of muscle soreness. So I just found him, I think I could have listened to Dr. Friedman speak for, I don't know, hours sitting by a fireside on sports cardiology. He was very down to earth and just gave a great presentation of the overall view of how pharmacists and advocating for how pharmacists could and should be a part of a sports team, especially in sports cardiology.
I completely agree with you. I've taken a lot of notes, and this presentation was maybe the presentation that I took the most notes, in my opinion. Very advanced perspective, and the good part is that he understands how pharmacists and sports physicians, sports pharmacists can work together in such cases. So really getting the sports pharmacology perspective from his researcher mindset was really impactful. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and I'm partial also to him because he helps with the WTA, so Women's Tennis Association, and really understands female athletes. Him and I have had some discussions about low energy availability and REDS and the impact that has on the heart, and some cardiology presentations that you might see and not really hear about. So it's been pretty cool to learn from him, and even the differences between male and females on sports and cardiology. So it's been super fun.
Yeah, thanks to him. Really, really good presentation.
Yeah.
I can mention another one, another favorite lecture. How about
what was your other favorite one?
Corey.
We all love Corey.
His presentation was about what sports health professionals need to know about pre-workout ingredients. He is an academic publishing editor. He hosts the Performance Connection podcast. He has a nutrition degree. He is an expert in athletic performance. But what I really liked about his presentation was how he structured it. My nerd pharmacist brain loved it. He
Mm-hmm.
discussed the common ingredients, how each key ingredient mechanism, key pre-workout ingredient works, the dosing, the timing, and then came the efficacy and safety aspects, where we discuss if there is a supporting evidence in enhancing performance. If you go to a supplement store, you will most likely see stimulants like caffeine, cognitive enhancers like rhodiola, hydration boosters like electrolytes, endurance strength enhancers like creatine, or nitric oxide boosters like beetroot or betaine. Make a guess, Jess, which is the most common ingredient across pre-workouts? This was
Ooh.
something from Corey's presentation, if you can remember.
Yeah. It was definitely caffeine. And I was going to say, I thought Corey's presentation was awesome. And like you said, the way he laid it out for pharmacists in a very structured presentation. And I found it very impactful at the end when you added up all the grams that you would need to have effective doses. And he showed you that you would need like this massive scoop, probably about the size of a protein powder scoop, in order to have the effective doses of most of the ingredients in there. And some you actually need to take for weeks in order to be effective. So I found Corey's presentation very eye-opening in that sense.
Yeah, completely agree. And coming back to your guess, the most common ingredient is not caffeine. Caffeine is the
Oh,
second. The most common is beta alanine. And
oh
like
yeah.
you said, most of the pre-workouts don't have the effective dose, so it comes in with the pre-workouts because of its side effect, the tingling effect, so that
People like that.
athletes, people like it, people think they work. So don't fool into that. And Corey described in his presentation that most pre-workouts work, but some work in short term, some have chronic benefits. For example, like increasing maximum strength. And like you said, he explained the protocols, the evidence for some key pre-workout ingredients like caffeine, citrulline, or creatine. And I strongly recommend listeners to check his presentation on Sports Pharmacy Network's website. And my take-home messages were that few ingredients truly improve performance, and they help for a short period of time, like an hour or so. And most of the benefits are coming from caffeine because it's, I think, the appropriate dosing is chosen in pre-workouts. If you're a sport health professional, some of the key things that you have to be aware of are the products with 6+ ingredients. Check how many stimulants there are in the products because they can enhance its strength, each other's strength. And the safest is always to go for third party tested like NSF or Informed Sports. So these were some of the key messages he pointed out, and I really like it as a pharmacist. Is there a highlight that you want to mention before we close this episode? Anything that
Yeah,
you
I
remember?
would say that the panel was, again, I'm going to go back to the panel, was super fun. I think it was really fun in the sense that we had a lot of engagement from the audience with questions of just how to be a sports pharmacist and how did we each get in our different roles. And I think you said it earlier, like in order to be a good sports pharmacist, you have to be a good pharmacist first. And then I think the other part that I hope a lot of people took away from the panel discussion was understanding that there's two things. One, that you need to have this interprofessional team and learn from others. So that may mean networking with physical therapists, sports med providers, going out to athletic trainers and understanding that what are they getting educated on, taking some of their perspectives. I know I've taken multiple courses outside of pharmacy because I found pharmacy just didn't have the education I needed in order to be a good sports pharmacist. So making sure that you're connecting with other professionals. And I think that leads into the other thing that Robert talked about, and I think we all talked about, was walking in and making sure you're not just like, I'm a pharmacist, you need to listen to me, but coming in very open-minded and kind of sitting back and watching and listening and learning and stepping in and saying, how can I help you? This is what I can do, versus coming in and just saying, I'm a pharmacist, listen to me. So I think that was, two big key takeaways from the presentation. And that, there's not sports pharmacist jobs out there right now. So a lot of the jobs are being created by the brand that we develop of ourselves, and the education and stuff that we're putting out there. So I think, both of us have kind of created our own businesses, consulting services based on being sports pharmacists versus finding there. Neither of us have, not a job out there that just lists sports pharmacist out there. Hopefully one day that will be true, but for now it's a lot of kind of creating your own pathway and doing that in those ways that we described. So I thought the panel was really fun, and I hope next time the panel is a little bit longer, so that we can get some more questions in there. And then if I had to pick a lecture though, I would say Angela Garcia's asthma lecture. So if you get the notes from that presentation, a really good dive into asthma, inhalers, and their impacts in sport. So if you need to look at notes, I think hers is a really good one to check out.
And that was like a pharmacy lecture,
That was a
pharmacology
pharmacy
lecture.
lecture. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it too. Yes, the panel was indeed short, but I remember you get the questions outside of the panel. You,
Yes.
Robert, Brandon, and Atina. So thank you for leading the path. It's really nice to have leaders like you around us, showing us the way, helping us which direction we should take. You learned the hard way, and this you being brave, paving the way, help growing sports pharmacists, aspiring sports pharmacists to make right choices for their career. So thank you very much, representing the aspiring and emerging sports pharmacists. So we can wrap this second episode with these key take-home messages and highlights from our perspective, me and Jess at the summit. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review, share it with your friends. And like you said, it was my pleasure to meet you in person
Yes.
at the summit.
Mine too. So
Yeah,
fun.
we spent years together to recording content, and it was always a pleasure to be with you. So, as sports pharmacists, our mission is to support sports pharmacy while providing accurate, evidence-based insights to athletes in optimizing health and performance.
And again, I just want to say it was super fun to meet you. I hope you had a great trip to your first time in the United States and Florida. And it was so fun to get the whole team together at the summit and everyone just together. I think the energy from there, not only from the team, but from all the participants, I hope will continue to carry to move sports pharmacy, even propel us faster forward. But in the end, I want to make sure that we remember that making health and wellness choices, we want to consult our pharmacist or physician. We want to prioritize safety and always stay informed. Thanks for tuning in to the Performance Prescription Lab podcast, and we will see you next time.